Today, we're going to be looking at one of the oldest nameplates in the automobile industry that is still in use today, the Volkswagen Beetle. We'll go through the engine specs, interior, exterior, as well as the price that a 1967 Volkswagen Beetle will go for in today's market. So sit back and enjoy. The Volkswagen Beetle, sometimes known as the Bug, is a two-door, rear-engine economy automobile that was produced and marketed by German automaker Volkswagen, VW, from 1938 to 2003. The concept and functional aims of the Volkswagen was created by Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany, who desired a cheap, uncomplicated car to be mass-produced for his country's new road network, Reichsautobahn. The first production was offered to members of the National Socialist Party for an additional dues surcharge, but the Spanish Civil War diverted most production resources to military vehicles to help the Nationalists under Francisco Franco. Despite being designed in the 1930s, civilian Beetles were only constructed in significant numbers by the end of the 1940s due to World War II. Internally, the car was known as the Volkswagen Type 1 and was sold simply as the Volkswagen. Later vehicles were labeled Volkswagen 1200, 1300, 1500, 1302, or 1303, with the first three denoting engine displacement and the last two denoting model number. The Käfer, German for beetle, cognate was English Schaefer, became widely recognized in its home country, and it was eventually marketed under that name in Germany and as the Volkswagen in other countries. It was known as the Coccinelle in France, which is French for ladybug. The Beetle featured a rear-mounted, air-cooled, four-cylinder boxer engine and rear-wheel drive in a two-door bodywork with a flat front windscreen, accommodating 4 or 5 passengers and providing luggage storage under the front bonnet and behind the back seat, and offering a coefficient of drag of 0.48. This is a relatively good coefficient of drag for a 1930s car. The car's streamlined rear also helped achieve this. The bodywork was attached to the Beetle's nearly flat platform chassis, which included a central structural tunnel using 18 bolts. Torsion bars and a front stabilizer bar were used in the front and rear suspension, enabling independent suspension at all 4 wheels. However, the front axle was constructed with 2 longitudinal trailing arms, and the rear axle was a basic swing axle. Mechanical drum brakes, split window rear windows, mechanical direction indicators, and the non-synchronized gearbox were among the first features to be changed. Other characteristics, such as its unusual overall shape, have remained. The Beetle, in fact, was praised for its supposedly unaltered exterior, marketed as the anti-GM and Ford to American consumers. We do not believe in planned obsolescence. We don't change a car for the sake of change. The engine, transmission, and cylinder heads of the Volkswagen Beetle were made of light alloy. A thermostat that bypassed the oil cooler while the engine was cold optimized the engine oil cooler. The engine cooler was placed in the engine fan's shroud to ensure optimal engine operating temperature and long engine life. An automated choke was added to later models, and this allowed heavy particles to be trapped by an oil bath while engine intake air went through a metallic filter. After 1960, the steering was equipped with a hydraulic damper to absorb steering imperfections. The interior featured painted metal surfaces, a metal dash consolidating instruments in a single circular binnacle, adjustable front seats, a fold-down rear seat, optional swing-out rear windows, front windows with pivoting vent windows, heating via air-to-air exchange manifolds operating off the engine's heat, and a windshield washer system that eschewed the complexity and cost of an additional electric pump and instead received its power from the engine's heat. VW sold the Beetle with a 4-speed manual transmission throughout its production. VW provided an optional version of the Saxomat semi-automatic transmission starting in 1961, and it did this almost exclusively only in Europe. A standard 4-speed manual gearbox connected to an electromatic clutch with a centrifugal clutch for idling. Following that, VW provided a semi-automatic transmission, marketed as automatic stick shift and also known as auto stick, as an option starting in 1967 in Europe and 1968 in the United States, which featured a 3-speed manual coupled with an electro-pneumatic clutch and torque converter. While the Beetle's general appearance remained relatively the same during its manufacturing, it underwent approximately 78,000 minor alterations. Few automobiles are as iconic and identifiable as the Volkswagen Beetle. The car was built by Volkswagen for ease of production and repair, and it had separate fenders and running boards, similar to those seen in the 1930s. The rounded body had a unique split rear window, as well as attractive curved lines that formed an arch between the windshield and the back deck. In comparison to other cars at the time, it was incredibly simple. The bodywork was fastened to a flat chassis deck that was supported by a structural tunnel in the center. Mechanical turn signal indicators were used on early Type 1s. Of course, the engine was at the back, with a trunk in the front. Optional features such as a full-length canvas sunroof and updated chrome trim were added as the Beetle's popularity expanded. In late 1952, the split window was changed to an oval, and in 1965, a larger back window was added. A new greenhouse and a larger curved windscreen were also introduced this year. Volkswagen made design changes during the 1950s and 1960s, but the most notable change came in 1971, when the slightly larger Super Beetle joined the normal Beetle in the lineups. With a larger front end, larger taillights, reverse lights, and larger engine vents. The 1967 Beetle is known for being the last year of the rounded bumpers, a full metal dashboard, and a 12-volt electrical system. It was finished with a traditional black exterior and a red inside. Throughout, it is rust-free and in excellent shape. Over the last 2 years, it was completely repaired, repainted from top to bottom, new interior, and detailed undercarriage. The engine, brakes, and transmission were all rebuilt as part of the mechanical restoration. The VW functions admirably, starting and running smoothly, shifting smoothly, and stopping fast. 1,776cc engine with factory crank, 90.5 bore, dual carbs, and 009 distributor freshly rebuilt. In 1967, a larger displacement engine was offered for the first time, 1,500cc, 53 horsepower, 40 kilowatt, 54 PS, at 4,200 RPM. Many markets based taxation on engine capacity. Therefore, 1,200 and 1,300 engines were still available. Front disc brakes were standard on 1,500cc Beetles, which were distinguished by a VW 1500 label on the engine lid. The 1500 engine was standard equipment in North America, but front disc brakes were not. A Volkswagen badge on the engine lid distinguished these vehicles. A larger track, softer torsion bars, and the inclusion of a unique Z configuration equalizing torsion spring were all part of the rear suspension overhaul. The generator output was boosted from 180 to 360 watts for US, UK, and Ireland models, and the complete electrical system was improved from 6 to 12 volts. The clutch disc was also expanded in size, and the flywheel was altered. A driver's armrest was added to the door, as well as locking buttons on both doors. 2 speed wipers, reverse lights in some areas, and a driver's side mirror were among the new safety features. North American models received a dual-circuit brake system, clear glass headlamp covers were removed, the headlamps were moved forward to the leading edge of the front fenders, and the sealed beam units were exposed and surrounded by chrome bezels, all in accordance with the newly enacted U.S. Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 108. The 1967 model sold in Europe retained the older headlights throughout the remainder of the globe markets, including its counterparts in Latin America, especially the Brazilian market model, which retained the pre-1965 body style. Aside from the one-year-only engine deck lid, another quirk of the 1967 North American market Beetle is the rear bumper overriders, or towel rails, which have a different shape from the older models. This bug not only had 53 horsepower and was designed for slow cruising, despite the fact that it wasn't a Baja bug. Drivers still regard this model as the one that got everything perfect. It had a dual braking system that included both disc and drum brakes. The bug has a 4-cylinder engine and was offered with a 4-speed manual transmission. It had a cabriolet sunroof that allowed drivers to cruise with the top down, allowing them to enjoy the sunshine whether they were in frigid New York or hot Arizona. To get one of these cars today, you must be willing to spend between $15,000 to $30,000. Although the Beetle isn't a sports car, the gear shifts are precise. The clutch is progressive, and the steering has terrific weight and feel. It boasts a 0 to 60 time of 36 seconds. Well, that isn't much of a boast, is it? But this isn't a car you'd buy for speed. Rather, it's a collector's item or a lovely retro automobile to cruise around the neighborhood in. It moves with a fresh energy that contrasts sharply with most of its early predecessors' dynamic slope. The brakes, on the other hand, are dreadful. But then again, all brakes were terrible in the 1970s. What do you think about this vehicle? Would you still buy one today? Comment down below.